Welcome to Ransom. Let's start today's story.
On the night of the Lindbergh kidnapping in 1932, the perpetrator left behind a distinct piece of physical evidence, a homemade 3-section wooden ladder. Investigators zeroed in on the right upright of the top section, a piece of southern yellow pine known as Rail 16. The prosecution built their case on a specific claim. Rail 16 was originally part of a larger floorboard found inside the suspect's home. That main suspect was Bruno Richard Hauptmann. If this piece of wood originated from his attic, it would provide an undeniable physical link between him and the crime scene. This diagram illustrates the piece of attic floorboard the police entered into evidence, labeled S226, and its spatial arrangement directly alongside Rail 16. Critics and defense attorneys pushed back, arguing this match was a fabricated coincidence manufactured by law enforcement eager for a conviction. Establishing true forensic provenance requires matching the material across independent biological and mechanical dimensions. To prove these two boards were once one, we must conduct a simultaneous analysis of mechanical tool marks, the macroscopic topology of the branches, and the microscopic dendrochronology of the wood grain. The first dimension of evidence is industrial milling. When machines process rough lumber, they impart distinct mechanical tool marks onto the wood. To smooth a board, a machine planer feeds it through a rotating cylinder equipped with cutting blades. Each blade leaves a small, closely spaced groove on the surface. Both Rail 16 and S226 possess identical baseline physical dimensions, having been milled in a plane-sawed manner. The precise physical signature lies in the cuts. Both boards exhibit an average of exactly 8 planar knife marks per inch on their surfaces. Both boards display a 6-knife periodic pattern, where every 6th mark is deeper. Imperfect machines also create wavy dressing, caused by a vibrating pressure bar. Both boards exhibit this identical defect, coupled sequences of close-together knife marks. Consistent torn grain near the knots further indicates that both boards were planed in the exact same direction while maintaining high moisture content. These shared microscopic defects prove that both pieces passed through the identical defective machine at the same time. Moving to biological markers addresses the defense's primary critique. During the trial, defense witnesses pointed out that Rail 16 has 3 knots, while S226 has 7. As we know, knots are simply the bases of branches. In a forest, pine trees undergo self-pruning. As the top canopy expands and blocks the sun, the shaded lower branches wither and eventually fall off. This growth cycle ensures a standard forest pine has few branches on its lower trunk, while knots cluster densely near the upper canopy. This knot map tracks every knot across both boards against the self-pruning rule. Rail 16 contains healed whorls and few intact knots, strictly indicative of a lower, self-pruned trunk. S226 shows a clustered pattern of surviving branches, indicating it originated higher up, nearer the canopy. The differing number of knots provides biological evidence that S226 grew directly above Rail 16 on a single continuous trunk. We confirm this vertical alignment by analyzing surface cambium growth, the tree's annual rings. Annual rings rarely travel perfectly straight up a trunk. Instead, they distort and curve as they navigate around branch knot swells. This alignment demonstrates the tracking of specific rings. The curves on Rail 16 align with corresponding patterns on S226, continuing right across the physical gap between the boards. We can also check the horizontal thickening of the tree using cross-sections of the end grain. An annual ring consists of 2 phases: light-colored early wood cells and dark, thick-walled late wood cells. Occasionally, a tree produces a false ring, an extremely thin band of late wood triggered by localized climate events like late frosts or severe summer droughts. Rail 16 and S226 share identical false ring anomalies, located in the exact same growth layers. The ultimate microscopic test involves overlapping the cross-sections to compare the precise arc and cellular thickness of every ring simultaneously. First, we establish the high-contrast end view of S226 as our baseline for statistical comparison. When the end view of Rail 16 is applied over the baseline, the boundaries of the early wood and late wood align without deviation. This ring-for-ring, thickness-for-thickness lock proves the two boards share the exact same microscopic biological history. Wood constitutes an unforgeable matrix of independent mechanical and biological variables. Locating two separate boards that coincidentally passed through a planar with the exact same loose pressure bar defect is mechanically improbable. Finding two separate trees with the exact same knot canopy spacing and self-pruning whorls is biologically improbable. Finding two separate trees that experienced the exact same localized climate events to produce matching false rings at identical thicknesses is statistically impossible. When we layer these independent sets of data together, the mechanical tool marks, the macroscopic knot topology, and the aligned cellular cross-section, we see a total convergence of evidence. To determine the weight of this match, forestry experts utilize dendrochronology regression modeling. These measurements provide the final quantitative link. The statistical probability of these two end views coming from separate trees is less than 1 in a million. This brings us back to the theory that law enforcement planted the attic board or fabricated the match. A forgery would require the simultaneous manipulation of mechanical tool marks, macroscopic topologies, and cellular structures, a level of synchronization that exceeds the capabilities of forensic fabrication. The forensic anatomy leaves no room for debate. The ladder rail found at the Lindbergh scene and the floorboard in Hauptmann's attic are beyond scientific doubt the exact same piece of wood.